Have you spoken to anyone else about your journey? Have you spoke to any revert or someone who converted to Islam? Because if you speak to those revert, you will find one thing common, that they actually, before taking the shahada, they actually convinced of the information, and then when they know these are the truth, then they started the journey, and then they start acting upon, meaning that they start praying daily prayer, they start doing fasting, they start giving charity, and once they start doing all of these, you will have a personal connection with God started to build. It's just like when you get married, and your the love for your wife doesn't decrease. Do you see? So it start increasing. But before marriage, you may know little bit about her, or maybe reasonably know about her, reasonably good amount of knowledge about her, but the love keep increased. The same way in Islam, when someone become Muslim, and this is the experience that many revert shared with me personally. I mean, often we sit down in a meal and I've asked them, why did you change your mind? Why did you become Muslim? And what is the relationship with God at present, comparing the time you taken the Shahada back then? So I often find one common thing, and which is their relationship is keep increasing as time goes by. And the fact of the matter is the personal relationship between the God and them. In between, when they taken the Shahada, and then they start acting upon God, and Allah said, "Ala bi zikrillahi tatma'innal qulub," meaning that if you remember Allah, that you will have this true tranquility in your chest. So, that happiness we are seeking, that comes ala bi zikrillah. Now remember, if I remember Allah, then He will give me that peace or serenity. Now, in order to get that serenity, the condition is zikrillah, meaning remember of Allah. Now, how that can be practically achieved is many different ways. Either constantly remember of God. When you do wudu, wash your face and hand and feet and the nose, and then doing charity. All of those actually are quite essential factor for developing that relationship, and that is the conviction. So often I find there are reasoning that we don't find conviction, and my type of understanding from speaking to the river, that the real conviction actually grows when we actually bring a relationship, or when you start a relationship with that. Just like when we start a relationship with our wife and our children, the love keeps getting increased day by day. Unless, of course, if you are in an abusive relationship, that's a different matter, right? So that's what I would suggest, that maybe even if you don't want to take Shahada, what you can do is start praying with the conviction that then you will make the utterance easily, because your heart should your heart should compel towards that belief. Your heart should push you. But sometimes I'll tell you, sometimes heart doesn't hurt. Sometimes heart, sometimes heart doesn't push that in a way that you will utter it, because your heart may be busy with something else. Like, there are many things that are detrimental for our mind and health. One of the things are social media, the things that we watch, the program that we watch. There are many things which are influenced from the devil, the Satan. It's not the Satan directly involved, it is the influence that occurred through those programs and events. So we do not even know how much of our brain actually loaded with all those garbage that are Yeah. So in Islam, it tells us to purify our soul and the nafs. And how does that happen? It happens through the devoted worship to Allah and eliminating that Allah considered as sin. What are the sin? Like, sin is something that Allah always prohibited, yes? Like, for example, about free mixing, then alcohol, gambling, wrong friends, meaning someone who will be influence you in a bad way.
Boasting of your sins.
Absolutely. So all those things can be very detrimental for our mind and body. So in order to receive that tranquility, so there are certain prescriptions we can apply in our daily life. One is the prohibition. Prohibition of things that are detrimental for our psychology and our mind and how we operate. And allow the good stuff to be injected to our mind. Like remembering God, maybe recitation of the Quran, listening to that, or listening to the lectures about Islam, and and the more you learn God, you will build your software with good information, and then once you stop other things, then you will see, okay, now it's synchronizing, now I can see the light. The problem is sometimes often we do too much sin or too much disobedience to God. We sometimes the light is nearby to us, but we don't see it. Why? We kind of create a blockage with the sin that we commit. So therefore, that's why Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, every time a human or someone do sin, as if like a black dot on a white paper. Before committing another action, Allah is asking to make tawbah, being istighfar, to repentance to God, so that God will wipe it out. Now, if someone keep constantly doing that sin without that repenting, now imagine that page. You have one black dot, more black dot, more black dot, more black dot. In one point of time, that will be whole paper will be black. That means you created a barrier. Now you can't see from that shadow what is next to the black things, right? And that's what actually requires. There are a lot of things required in order to get guidance. And these are the things I personally think that I would recommend as a brother in humanity, that maybe that will help you. And also I would say choosing a good friend.
I appreciate this point of view more, like, or this approach, I guess, where you don't necessarily have to commit fully immediately, whereas you build up to the commitment.
Yeah. So once you build up to that commitment, you will find that tranquility, because Allah telling us to follow the process. The guidance is not belongs to us. It's rather to God. But Allah telling us the process, if you follow that process, you will be guided. So it's actually conditional. Do you see the point? The guidance process is conditional, and also those who doesn't get guidance, they are also conditional. Like for example, Allah said, "Inna Allah la yahdil qawma zalim." Allah does not guide someone who is zalim, meaning who is oppressor. So the oppression can be in many forms. Oppressing to others. The oppression can mean oppressing to ourselves. How? Meaning, if I know something is truth, and if I hide something, I am actually making a zulm or an act of injustice to myself, because I'm hiding the truth. The kafir, the word called kafir. Kafir. Kafir means someone who hides something. So kafir does not mean as a bad term. Often Muslims say he's a kafir, meaning someone he's hiding the truth. So whenever we do zulm, meaning we know the truth and then we try to hide the truth. Now, if I deliberately do constantly after constant reminder come from God, then just think about the example I've given. The black paper and the dot, and if you do not, the black dots, and if you do not repent, the black dot keep increasing, and at a certain point in time it will be full, and at a certain point in time that maybe the road of guidance will be blocked for you. That's Allah knows best. I'm saying these are the practical steps. Allah is keep reminding us that who are the people who will be guided and who are people who will not be guided. Now, I would say maybe do a checklist and and list all your activities that you do. See which activities takes you out of fold of Islam, meaning that will kind of give you a connotation or an or impression that, oh, that is something actually detrimental for me at present, so I need to look into something else, meaning an alternative option. For example, I'll give you an example what I mean. Let's say someone loves pork. So how can you now suddenly get out of the situation? You can avoid pork, but you can look at alternative, the halal method. If someone say, look, I love alcohol, I would say just think about the alternative option that Allah kept for you. We have so many types of fruits and juices, although it will not be the same, but like I'm saying, we have alternative for each thing. So if you have something, let's say if you are watching movies and you are so much into movies, and these are not good movies for your mindset or something psychologically, you can get closer to that, creates a barrier. You can choose good documentaries about Islam. There are so many good documentaries about Islam. You can look it up on the time of Prophet Muhammad and how the social system, how Prophet Muhammad became the greatest prophet of Islam. So all of those things can really help someone to come to a balanced and disciplined life. When I say disciplined life, do you believe that discipline is something that we always need to achieve? Do you believe?
Yeah.
Anything?
Yeah.
Do you think that can be achieved also for Islam if you follow the disciplined approach?
I feel like, you have to, it's a commitment.
Commitment, yeah. I mean, do you think it's quite difficult to maintain this discipline when you are habituated for a very long time? I know it's a personal question, but because it's a very friendly discussion.
Yeah, I feel like that, we know have measures. If you're going to be a true believer, you should be committed completely and you should display the discipline
Yeah.
to follow every word of the Quran.
Sure.
It shouldn't be a pick and choose.
Yeah. In fact, actually, Allah mentioned in the Quran that udkhulu fi silmi kaffa wa la tattabi'u khutuwat ash-shaytan. Meaning, when you entered the religion, you entered wholeheartedly. And وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ, meaning do not follow the footsteps of shaitan. إِنَّهُ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌّ مُبِينٌ. He is your plain and clear enemy to you, So, like any act we do, every time any act we do, we always start with say Bismillah. Because sometimes in our action can be go to a negative direction. Because look, every action as a Muslim we do, Allah reward for our action. If it is a good action and a good intention. Now imagine if I go and help someone, and say in the intention of, oh, people will not be acceptable in the sight of God. Why? I'm not doing that for the pleasing God, but rather I'm doing so that people will tell me, oh, I'm good. So every intention or any action we do, the intention must be purified. So if we migrate for a reason, let's say if you migrate for Allah, Allah will give you reward. If you migrate for a reason for something else, not other than Allah, but if it is a good intention and it is for sake of Allah, then Allah will reward. So I think, there are certain disciplines. Certain discipline is quite essential and a prerequisite for guidance. Where do you think you will struggle?
I feel like
Because I can give you some alternative suggestion.
I feel like if I were to be fully convinced of what I believed in, I wouldn't struggle with any of it.
So that's gone back to again the conviction part, isn't it? But like I said, conviction part,
You build it.
you have to build it. Because sometimes we wait for something to happen, but things may not happen. But because there are certain tasks needed in order to achieve it. Because, I mean, we cannot scan our heart and mind to see how much garbage we have. I mean, every day we've been fed up with so much information. And how do we know, and what are the percentage of information that we hold our mind and in heart that are pure? Like imagine if we have a pie chart. If let's say we have a machine and it scan our mind, we'll find probably 80% of the information are garbage. Because we live in a time of information, and there's so much information. But unfortunately, there are a lot of information, there are misinformation we've been hearing. It's been fed through our ears. Like for example, as you know, that Islam promoted in a very bad light to the general masses, and which you know that's not the case. They are unaware of the Islam. They've been misinformed. Now imagine these haters, they successfully achieved their target to take people away from Islam by presenting misinformation. That's why Speaker's Corner is the best place where you can clarify those issues, you can raise your question and the concern, and brothers are here, are welcome those questions, and they break it down in a way that you comprehend, you understand, and you take the steps. I mean, since 9/11, there are a lot of people become Muslim. Because you know why? They spread lies against Islam.
Yeah, so people look, they want to learn more.
Yeah.
They realize.
Yeah. But then when people start investigating Islam, and they will say, oh, hold on a second. We've been fed lies to our ears 24/7. Islam is so beautiful. Why did they do it? Then they realize if they accept Islam, that means they will go against to the conventional banking, where the rich getting more richer, poor getting more poorer, and Islam will oppose the idea. Islam will introduce zakat, which is a fair system for the poor. We should take from the rich and give it to the poor. They don't want that. They want elite class to stay on the top, and they want to suck the blood of the poor. Islam tells us the white man is not superior than a black man, nor a black man is superior over a white man. They realize if we adopt this principle or adopt this religion, they cannot do this modern slavery. The modern slavery is still happening today, right? It may not be physical, but it's very institutionalized slavery through capitalism and many other reasons, right? So, look, those medias have an agenda to preach their model. And whenever you look at Islam, you will investigate both, compare, and you realize that, look, actually Islam is the truth, but those models actually going against Islam. That's why they have the issue. Because if they allow Islam, they know their business will be over. Because these are the injustice. Look, Allah always told about two options. Yeah, Allah talks about good and bad. And that's a very, very essential point. I take it from personal life. There is nothing in between good and bad. Do you agree? Either you side. I mean, in my understanding, there is nothing called neutral. And I'll define it, what I mean by it. You know, neutral is something you sit on the fence and you don't choose any of them. But you actually siding with something. Even judge cannot be a neutral because you have to side with the truth. So that means he's actually siding with the truth, right? So that is, neutral is a concept that actually doesn't exist. Even if you kept quiet, that means you are siding with a group. Even though you are not 100%, but there will be a percentage, yes. Yeah. So the purely neutral doesn't exist in the reality. So when we believe and disbelieve, there are conviction, without the conviction that someone will be still a disbeliever. When the conviction comes, we will jump onto the other side, which will be a believer. This is where significant difference that Islam promotes the idea that free people, not enslaved people. But if you look at other ism and the other models exist in our time, all of the models are trying to suffocate us, try to chain us in a way, although it's not a physical chain. But when you go to the law, that means you are tied up. They will give you £10,000. In return, you will give £17,000. So you've been slave for a good amount of time, and they're gonna exploit the weakness. They realize that now I'm gonna exploit the weakness of this individual, and now because of that weakness, they try to take an advantage. And Islam goes other way around. Islam said, "Oh, hold on a second. You cannot oppress people. This is zulm, injustice. Rather, free people. Like, for example, if someone in debt, in Islam encourage that you should help him and make him debt free. And this is one of the great reward, that if you make someone debt free. So Islam is going on the counter side. So that's why they have the issue with Islam. And look, you will see, you will hear, you go around, and there's so much hatred. You will see that coming out. Do you know why? Because of that information has been fed through their mind, and then of course they probably didn't want to look into Islam. And sometimes, Allah doesn't give guidance to those who doesn't want to be guided. So there are many reasons people don't get be guided. Not only that, they become an oppressor to others. Why? Because they go against God's command and afflict injustice on others using different models. So Islam, that's why Islam prevention is something very important. Like, for example, our Sharia or Islamic guidance goes with prohibition and allowance. Allah tells us there are certain things we should enjoy and there are certain things we should not. Like Allah said, okay, drink, eat fruit, and all of these things are okay, but don't drink alcohol. So He make the prohibition and left you allowable option that you have no excuse. The problem is, though, when things work for people, they don't give thank you to Allah. But when there's something happened to them, they will say, why Allah is not helping me? It's such a hypocrisy. Do you see? So Allah constantly talk about all of those issues. Human beings to awake from the pretend sleep they're in. And Allah is telling what are the path of bad and what are the path of good. If you follow the path of good, you're definitely guided by Allah. But in order to do that or achieve that, there are certain characteristics or certain discipline we need to place ourselves. And even Muslim for ourselves, we say at least minimum 17 times a day, Ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqim. Means, oh God, guide us to the straight path. Why should we say that? We already been guided. Because devil is tempting every time, He is our plain enemy, Allah is allowed devil to tempt us. Yes. Why? If he doesn't tempt us, there will be no test. The whole point of creating us is a test. So as he can't control us, but he can tempt us. But how we act upon that free will. Now, if we have that disciplined attitude and act upon those discipline, we can actually maintain that, and we can be guided. So this is a road, is a Sirat al-Mustaqim. This is the straight path, not a crooked path, right? So those who become Muslim, I often find Allah guided them because they have some sort of sincerity and they're taking some steps, and the rest, like Allah said, Allah is muqallib al-qulub, means someone who changed the heart. It's not easy, and I know for sure, because it's something that. But then again, once you have this enough information, that should lead you to the conviction.
There's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
You answer. I'll come up with some questions. I'll come back next Sunday.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you again.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, if you write it down.
I'll write it down. I'll come back. I'll think about it.
Yeah. And also, I think, look, you have researched the foundation. which is there is only one word. Muhammad is a messenger of God. Everything comes later on. You will grow, learn, question. You'll grow, learn, question. I have many questions. My process is, I believe in foundation. I'm a Muslim. I'm practicing it. If I don't know something, I research on it. Or I speak to someone who knows. I look at the resources, what are available. Nowadays, we live in an information time. We obtain the answer very easily. But like I said, once you have first and second step convinced with the information, then you take the step and then you can ask, yeah. Pleasure talking to you.
Thanks very much.
God bless you, and hopefully, we see you a Muslim in some time soon. I hope may Allah guide you to Islam. Thank you. Look after yourself.